Like I always say, illegal mining, and for that matter, Galamsey, is a threat to everybody, everywhere. And so it doesn't matter your political colors. You ought to join in calling out and in exposing the ills of societies, if any, and asking that the right things should be done. And so for the many civil society organizations, including the clergy, calling on government to do the right things and to make sure that we crack down on the perpetrators, I want to give them the assurance that President Mahama hears them and the government is listening. In fact, it demonstrates the NDC's government's commitment to the fight against the Galamsey. We recognize that government is not a repository of all knowledge. And so we invited a number of civil society organizations so we can hear perspectives and also to inform them of the measures taken so far. And so we welcome every call. In fact, instructive in the speech of President Mahama is that civil society should keep this government on its toe, should keep putting the fire under the government so that together we can win the fight. Because when you buy food to eat, nobody asks you for your party colors. When you buy water to drink, nobody wants to know which region you come from or what tribe. So we are all endangered in the illegal or in the Galamsey issue. But having established this point, it's also important to say that I think the NPP should adopt a different communication approach in discussing this fight against Galamsey because they are doing a very poor job. It's actually reflecting on them. I don't know who is advising them, but maybe they are not listening to themselves. Constantly, the communication line has been that, yes, you are in government, so do something about it because in the past, we were told that we were in government, so we should do something about it. I think that they have to have a more nuanced approach to communicating on this matter so they don't make people angry. And I would not want to engage in any form of equalization, but Annie, it's important to take viewers through the journey. How did we get to the state in which we are in? And then to discuss what the NDC government inherited and what exactly we are doing about it. That is the only way that people would appreciate. And I can understand why the rep of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, after the presentation by the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, said that he's satisfied that something is being done about it. Many others have commended the NDC government in demonstrating a strong political will, in welcoming very diverse opinion in our quest to end this illegal mining phenomenon, if you like. I mean, it's important to state that since we started mining in Ghana, as long as the data I have will prove, many people were not allowed, or not even the big companies were allowed to mine in forest areas for a very good reason. Then sometime in the Kufuor era, during the prospecting of major mining companies, they realized that there may be very large deposits of minerals in some forest areas. So the Minerals Commission, together with the EPA, together with all relevant agencies, developed a guideline to say that where big companies or large-scale mining will take place in forest areas, they have to be strictly regulated. And so that's how you have the likes of Chirano Mines, Newmont Ghana Limited, mining in forest areas. But Annie, when they mine in the forest areas, because it's like huge underground mining. They don't engage in what we call the processing, like what you see in the video, washing. They wash the thing so that they can see the ore and all that. They don't engage in that. So they have something they call tailing dams, because these people do that so that it will conform to international standard. And that has been the practice from President Kufuor through to President Mills, through to President Mahama. And there was no issue. Now, why are we discussing the devastating effect of this illegal mining on our water bodies? You recall that even in 2016, our water bodies were not destroyed this much, even though we had an issue with illegal mining. What we are facing and the intensity of the fight we are facing, we ought to be holding the NPP very accountable to it. What are we facing? When the NPP assumed power in 2017, they quickly placed a ban on illegal mining. They said that, we are declaring a state of emergency and that we will make sure that we end this Galamsey. And so sometime between 2017 through to 2018, they placed a ban. The things they say, we want a state of emergency declared. The NPP declared some. But ironically, I have a data from the Ghana Chamber of Mines, which shows that in 2018, our gold exports, even after the ban, the so-called ban, was all-time high. So where were people getting the gold to export if there was a complete ban on mining? It should tell you that the challenges that we face are more nuanced.
Which year?
2018 and that was the time illegal mining had been banned. Yes, through to that. So if people were not mining, how were they getting the gold to export? But after that state of emergency
How
was...
the ban necessarily affect our gold if we have gold?
But you need to mine both. So there is a data on what the big companies export. And so if it shoots up at the time when even small-scale mining people were not allowed to mine, we will be interrogating the source of that increase. But Annie, the most important point I want to make is that when the ban was placed on the illegal mining, you know what happened? The NPP quickly took the licenses from ordinary Ghanaians who were not partisan and decided to award it to party people. That was when the fight became very partisan. Yes, and I'll prove it. Don't worry. That's why I said I wish we had a lot of time. I'll prove it. So they gave these licenses to the party people. Even the president of the Small Scale Miners Association raised these concerns anytime they met President Mahama, then in opposition. But what happened? They quickly had their own party people enter forests to start mining anyhow, without the requisite licensing. And so to legalize what at the time was an illegality, they then promulgated LI 2462. And Regulation 3 gave the power to the president to award or to give licenses for people to mine in the forest. And Annie, we hear everybody who say that the illegal mining is a threat, and that is true. But I think the NPP should keep quiet. Because if you look at the wording of Regulation 3, I beg your pardon, it says that a person shall not issue a license or permit to any person to undertake mining activity, including exploration activity, in the following areas. 1, a globally significant biodiversity area. B, a protected provenance area. And then it goes on. And then this is where the catch is. that despite paragraph A of sub-regulation 1, the President may, subject to Article 268 of the Constitution, give approval in writing to a mining company to undertake mining activity in a globally significant biodiversity area in the national interest. So in short, we are placing limitations on you and we are banning you from mining in forest areas. However, we are clothing the President with the powers to give mining leases to companies to mine in forest areas. And that was the beginning of our woes. We are saying that where a person ought to protect the forest area or a globally significant biodiversity area, please do not give a mining lease. But they say that where you think that it is in the national interest, then give the mining lease to the person. No president ought to exercise this discretion anyhow, because in fact, it is not the norm, it's the exception. That the president is allowed to do something, although it is not generally permissible. But where the president considers that it's in the national interest, somebody should tell me what was the national interest that Akonta mining and the rest. I mean, what was the national interest of their mining? But the NPP government gave licenses to people to mine in forests. And these forests are connected to our water bodies. And then they turn around to say that, oh, despite all the mess we have created, now you are in government, fix it. My answer to them is that we will fix it, and we are fixing it. Unlike them, President Mahama accepts responsibility so that there is a history to a man who came to meet Dumsor. And everybody, was just doing something little about it. But he took the responsibility and fixed it, and he will fix this again. But they should not be saying that. They should not be telling us we created the mess, so fix it. And Annie, to even know what the NDC government inherited, do you know that from the year 2023 till the very last day the NPP left office, there was no single positive action on their part to demonstrate that they were indeed fighting Galamsey. They withdrew all security services from mining areas, and it was a free-for-all. And I challenge the NPP to come and tell us what actions they took from 2023 through to 2024. You know why they abandoned the fight in Galamsey. They said that because in the 2020 elections, they lost a lot of mining areas. From 2023, they were not fighting Galamsey. So the NDC government inherited a country where the NPP government had no intention, howsoever described, to fight Galamsey. And so they should not be saying that in 8 months, you should do this, knowing the mess they have caused. Others can be pardoned, but not them. And other people who express similar views, they can be pardoned because they will not take excuses for the fact that somebody created the mess, and so we just want to look on, which is not what is happening. And at the time the NDC government took over, I can tell you that 44 out of 288 forests were invaded by illegal mining, with 9 areas declared as red zone. The NPP government had given up. There was nothing they could do about it. They said they were so helpless and they couldn't do anything about it. But all these 9 forests have been repossessed by government. And so this is a government that is doing something. But having established this point, many people will ask, so what is the NDC's approach then to solve this Galamsey menace? Because they want to hear a solution, and rightly so. They don't want to hear what the previous government did bad and all that. The NDC has 4 approaches to solving this issue. First of all, is strengthening stakeholder consultations and collaborations with local communities. We realized that much as illegal mining had environmental impact, it also had some socio-economic angle that you need to tackle. And if the NPP were very honest, when they introduced their community mining, it failed for a reason. The community people were not involved. They did not understand exactly what was happening. So in areas like Fomena, the people opposed it, and in one community in Western North. So they could not even start the community mining in these two areas. And they also knew that the matter was not so simple, because if you prevented the community people who had the valid license for mining and you are allowing the big mining companies to mine, you realize that the workers were then susceptible to attack. And so there was a need to engage communities, and this government has been engaging a lot of chiefs, women, men, young people on how to actually bring at the community level the fight and how they can help. Again, the second approach has to do with the legal and regulatory regime. When we came, we realized that if you take a complete analysis of the LI 2462, the challenge was Regulation 3, where the president had the power to give approval for people to mine in forests. And President Mahama said, if that is the challenge, take away those powers from me. Go and amend that portion so that no president will have the right and the powers to award or grant mining leases to people to mine in forest areas. That was then, the Regulation 3 was then amended, and we had LI 2501. Civil society said, we don't even want the entire LI. Although we may admit that you are taking the powers away from you, and so it will not give you the powers to mine. We don't want it. The NDC government says, why not? We thought that by taking this away, it would solve the problem. But if you're saying that it will not, then we will now repeal the entire LI and even engage in other regulatory reforms like amending the Minerals and Minings Act, which has been amended twice, once in 2015 and in 2019. And we are still finding out that there are a lot of gaps that people explore for the purposes of illegal mining. So as we speak, there are stakeholder engagements and consultations going on to mine it. But when you talk about the LI and the repeal, then my friends in the NPP will say, just take the LI away. So what was their intention when they told the people of Ghana that they were indeed fighting illegal mining? And yet they had this LI that today in opposition, they are saying that it's so bad. So don't even use the LI. Repeal, revoke, using all kinds of different jargons. We hear them. But I wish I would hear.
You assured you are going to take it off.
Yes,
so
but what was it? So they are saying that because we just said that, not because as an opposition they have a position on how to fight illegal mining.
That's my understanding from their.
So we should be questioning their intention at the time. No, it's okay that a president is even granted this power, but it's not okay that the president uses this in the manner that Nanado did to give party people the opportunities to enter forest, and people were mining haphazardly. It is not okay. And so perhaps they should be telling us what their intentions are, because for me, even if this LI was well intended, it was applied in one of the most awful manner that you can think about. Then when we say, the NPP people say, in fact, I heard one of their communicators say that, okay, if you are complaining about everything we did, please just end it, start your own thing. I want to give them the assurance that the NDC government has started our own thing. And in that thing, to quote them, that we have started, a lot of progress is being made. As I speak to you, we have what we call the NIMOs. And the NIMOs, they are actually doing a good job. And we learned the lesson from the Operation Galamsey, Vanguard, or I've forgotten some of the jargons they used to describe them, so that there can be an improvement. And let me say that to demonstrate the commitment of the NDC government in the fight against Galamsey, we have declared all forest areas and water bodies as security zones. What does that mean? It is just like the incident of state of emergency. It means that as we speak, people are not allowed to mine in water bodies or in forest reserves, so that there will be a 24-hour surveillance by the NIMOs. And the NIMOs is just a secretariat of all the security agencies coming together to fight it. We recognize that the fight against Galamsey will not be easy. And that is why constantly and at very regular intervals, we will do those stakeholder engagement and to tell people the way forward. And so if a government has declared an area as a security zone with 24-hour military, police, and other security agency surveillance, that we must commend. Then we have also seized a number of excavators. And as I speak to you, not even one excavator developed wings and we can't find it. Unlike MPP, that excavators were just getting missing and developing wings and flying. We don't have that. A number of arrests, over 1,400, has been effected. And to that, many people have said that we don't want you arresting just the laborers, because truly and really, there are financiers behind these laborers who engage in this. To that, we also say we hear them. However, when Wontumi is arrested and prosecuted, Wontumi, who says that he is a financier, he is a big fish, he goes to radio and TV stations with raw gold. The first time I saw raw gold was when Wontumi displayed it. For some reason, because I always see it like the bars, so I used to think gold was like
in the bar form.
Yes, until Wontumi showed that it may probably be able to take different shapes. So when the NDC is also arresting and prosecuting campaigns, the NPP people say, oh, it's partisan, it's political, it's witch hunting. So what should the government do? Because in the case of Wontumi, I can tell you on authority that Akonta Mining was engaged in illegal mining. Even the Minerals Commission under the NPP made this known. The CID investigated Akonta Mining and Wontumi, found him culpable. In fact, within that same week, Nanado went public and said that Wontumi did nothing wrong and Akonta Mining was not engaged in illegal mining. And who born dog, a CID expert?
Over the weekend, when I listened to the debates, I heard one of the former MPs indicate how chiefs, opinion leaders, MCs, DCs have all become complicits in this, venture. I remember I put it on social media that let the chiefs lead the fight. I was attacked. In fact, I trended that week. I don't know what I did or said wrong. But we have seen that when you go into the communities, the opinion leaders are all complicit to the extent that we're told that some of them, when you arrest them, the chiefs will come and plead on their behalf and bail them. What is the difficulty? Why are you not targeting those people? Like you said you actually would do.
No, so that is the socio-cultural aspect. And that is why we are engaging stakeholder. When I listened to a medical doctor yesterday on the medical effect, you will be amazed. And when he was tracing the link from the farm to the last consumption of the meal, perhaps the people in the communities, Annie, they may not appreciate this. What they see is we go dig gold, we wash, we sell, we get money. And you've been doing the same thing without getting a different result. So it's important that you change your approach, you engage them, you educate them, you sanitize them. Because you see, yeah, I listened to one gentleman who was making a case. He says where he comes from is a fishing community. And all the people know is fishing. When you go there and whatever you want to do, if you ask them you have $10 million, what do you want? They will ask you for a canoe. They will ask you, because for them, that is the scope of their exposure. Beyond fishing, they don't see what you see, perhaps sitting in Accra. So there is a need for you to engage and constantly engage them. Sometimes you even see some of the videos of the people in the pit and engage in illegal mining, saying things that you know that clearly these guys don't understand. So it's important that we engage these people.
Okay.
And like I'm saying, the NDC government has demonstrated and is committed to fighting Galamsey. President Mahama is not a beneficiary of illegal mining. And let me land by saying this. For instance, I work with the president. At very regular interval, the president is briefed on what they are doing to combat illegal mining. Can you imagine how unconscionable it would be that I sit at the presidency, and while people's spouses or husbands are in the field fighting, then I am engaged in Galamsey, knowing my proximity to the president, which district commander can fight me? That was exactly what we were facing in the MPP government, where Professor Frimpong Boateng, who is not a member of the NDC, mentioned names and said that as chairman of the interministerial committee, these are the people who are actively engaged in Galamsey. In fact, there is even a rumor that when you go to some of the forests, they name it Presidency Forest, Chief of Staff Forest, this person's forest. It was the impunity of people who were close to power and people who were engaged in government then to be actively involved in Galamsey. What you have is that there is no NDC minister, there is no NDC appointee at the president who is currently engaged in Galamsey. That demonstrates a commitment to fight the illegal minant. And so those who engage in the Galamsey, national executives of the MPP, were engaged in Galamsey, and every time you mention, they will say, why, are they not Ghanaians too? How did we expect that we will not politicize the fight? Here, you don't have any such thing. And the last time 2 national executives of the NDC were mentioned as being connected to Galamsey, swiftly the president said, Iyoko, you ought to be investigating them. Admittedly, both NDC and MPP, we don't control the actions of our party people. As I sit here this morning, I don't think my party contemplates what I'm coming to what I'm coming to say on air. So admittedly, you have members of MPP or NDC who may want to engage in Galamsey if they live in the community. You have people who may want to engage in illegality, but the commitment of the leader, when it is brought to his attention, it's most important. And you can see that President Mahama has clearly demonstrated. And let me say that, Annie, President Mahama is saying that no appointee of his should even be engaged in legal mining. We don't want you to even be engaged in legal mining. So don't go for whether small scale or large scale mining, because we cannot tell the scope. In the case, no appointee should engage in legal mining.
Okay.
So how much more illegal mining?
All right.
So if you want to engage in legal mining, please resign and go and do the business of mining. You cannot combine the business of political leadership and mining.
Okay.
That is a demonstration. So when people complain, we hear them. People who want the menace to end, we hear them. It is from a good place. We all want it. But the MPP should not be acting more righteous than the Pope.
Okay.
Because they are the reason we are where we are.